that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 487th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell, who, as you can see, is not here in the studio.
Not in the flesh today. I'm in the flesh at home.
He's in the flesh at home. This is his most recent approach to life, is to be lazy and stay home. Okay. Every day I go to the internet and I do my research on energy and climate change, and I put together 10 to 15 articles, a synopsis of each with a link to the original, and put those up at my blog, geoharvey.com. And if you look down that way, down on the screen, if you want to scroll down, you can see a link to geoharvey.com. You can see a link to Energy Week number 487, and you can see a text file that you can download for Energy Week number 487, and you can get...
That's basically the one we use for the show.
That's right, and you can use that to get links, any of those three, to get links to the original articles in case you want.
Some of these articles are well worth reading. Some of them are very long, so I'll try to call that to your attention.
Yep.
Because you've got time on your hands. These are worth following up.
Yep. We're starting on August 25th, which is a Thursday, a week ago today.
That's what it says.
That's what it says. And our first article is from the BBC. I'll bet Tom has I'm gonna put this up so people can see what we're talking about. That picture, by the way, is a picture of a park in Auckland, New Zealand, but it is not from the article. It's the article has its own pictures, but they're copyrighted. So what do you have for a title for this, Tom?
The spongy, in quotes, cities of the future.
Yeah, 2 parks in Auckland are designed to collect excess stormwater, store it up like a sponge, and slowly release it back into a creek. The parks are flanked on both sides by public housing. The parks are, quote, designed to flood so the houses don't, end quote. And this is according to Julie Ferry, the chair...
Made-up name.
What?
A made-up name.
No, I don't think so. I knew a woman with exactly that name. She was the chairman of the Puketatapa local board, and yeah, that's a.
We'll allow everybody to try and figure out what Puketatapa is,
or even how to say it. You know, it's one of those things. Who knows how to say Puketatapa? I don't.
Well, I don't have any notes on this particular article.
Okay. Well, I'll
just pass it on to the next one.
I'll tell people a little bit about it.
Okay.
One of the problems that we have with the heavier rainfalls that we have in storms these days is flooding. And what they figured out was that if the land was designed to absorb water and give it off slowly, the flooding could be reduced. And this can be done...
It's like a sponge, as
it's like a sponge. Says. It can be done in many ways. It can be done with swales, which are basically just ditches dug across hillsides so that the water gets caught before it runs down. Or it can be done with... what were those things were called bunds, weren't they, Tom, that we saw? The kind of ditches that were half-moon shaped that were dug in Kenya. We had them.
What was the word you used?
Bund.
Buns.
B-U-N-D, bund.
Yeah, I don't remember the word. So okay.
Well, it means berm, and why they would be called bund instead of berm, I don't know. But anyway, there they are.
It's those crazy Australians.
No, that was a term. That's actually an English language term that exists you can find it in the dictionary.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, you wanted to go on, and I think we should. Our next article is from CNN, and we have a nice picture of a train here in Germany. And that, by the way, is the train that we're talking about. What do you got for a title?
The world's first hydrogen-powered passenger trains are here.
The future of environmentally friendly travel might just be here, and it's Germany that's leading the charge with the first ever rail line to run entirely on hydrogen-powered trains. 5 are now running, and 9 more are being manufactured by Alstom to use in Lower Saxony. And Lower Saxony, of course, is...
Well, what they're doing, they're converting the existing diesels to run on hydrogen.
Yeah. Which is, something that hasn't been done before.
Well, yeah, there's less greenhouse gases in hydrogen than there is in anything else.
Well, and the hydrogen can be manufactured by electrolyzing water using the electricity from solar power or wind power to produce it.
Exactly right. So it can be pretty clean.
It can be pretty clean, and it's completely independent of anything that might be coming from Russia. And they need to.
That's a timely problem right now.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. They need to stop their dependence on Russia, which is pretty deep in a lot of parts of Europe. So, do you have more on that?
No, converting existing diesels to run on hydrogen is the only notes I got.
Okay. Our next item is from Clean Technica, and we have
a picture of a fire.
Of a fire. I'm going to put that up.
And a firefighter.
Yes, and this is from the Bureau of Land Management. I don't remember if this was with the article or it's something that I picked up separately. It's probably something that was with the article, but I'm not sure.
Well, the article came from Clean Technica.
Yeah.
And it says, and I quote, 4 months into the danger season, here's our extreme heat, flood, and fire tally.
Yeah, the U.S. is 4 months into the danger season, and we have another 2 months or so to go before the season hopefully starts to wind down. Meteorologists did a study of weather events that have taken place this year, and here is what they found. And there's a lot.
I got a list of them.
Oh, you want to read it?
Extreme heat. It's not a big list. Extreme heat, floods, fire weather, and concurrent extreme weather events.
Yes.
The danger season will continue to threaten our lives and well-being, and we need to act now to avoid the worst of climate impacts.
Yeah, well, we've needed to act now at whatever time now was.
Absolutely.
For a long time. Okay, we're up to Friday, August 26th, unless you've got more on that.
No, we're coming back to home here. We got a picture from Vermont Business Magazine.
We do.
Of solar PVs at Middlebury College.
Middlebury College, absolutely. And there they are. It's actually kind of hard to see them. They're up on the roof to the left, and you don't.
They're there, but yeah, I agree with what you say. Unless you really know what you're looking for, you're not going to even observe them. They're there.
Yep, a person could drive by.
Easy to see when you're looking for them, but if you're not looking for them, you're not going to notice them.
Yeah. So what do you got for a title for the article?
And I quote, "The Inflation Reduction Act just shattered the ceiling for clean energy in Vermont."
Absolutely. Incredibly and finally, the Inflation Reduction Act has begun to shift to a clean energy America. What does this mean for Vermonters? Well, it means a lot. For starters, if you're looking to go solar, you will now get 30% off through a tax credit.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, well, when you consider places like, there are a number of places that you can go to in Vermont to get help financing a conversion to solar power. So there's a lot going on here. There's support in this bill for a lot of other things, too. And we will go through that list next week. It's a thing that appeared today.
I've got a couple of quick notes about this.
Good.
The Inflation Reduction Act is a budget reconciliation bill.
Yes.
sponsored by Senator Schumer and Manchin.
Okay.
It was signed into law by Biden in 2022.
Yes.
And the law aims to curb inflation by reducing the deficit, lowering prescription drug prices, and investing into domestic energy production.
Yes.
While promoting clean energy. So it's a pretty good law.
Yeah, pretty good law. I absolutely agree with you on that one. So should we go on?
Yeah, I think we should go on. That's all the notes I got on it.
Okay.
Got a picture of a car here.
We have a picture of a car. Let me put that up. This article came from CNN, and
that ar is a Tesla Model 3.
That's what it says. Only thing I can tell you is that it's a black car in the dark. But
with a black cat inside.
With a black cat inside?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word on that. What do you have for title?
Well, the title is California votes to ban new gas car sales by 2035.
This is significant.
Now, this is significant.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The California Air Resources Board voted to approve stringent rules that would ban the sale of new gasoline cars by 2035 and phase the cars out with interim targets. The measure is historic for the United States. It has major implications for the U.S. car market, given the size of California's economy. And if I could mention this, there are something like 13 states that have linked their air pollution laws to California's.
California's, exactly.
And Vermont is one of them.
Uh-huh.
So, and there are others in the Northeast. So I think we may be facing a similar ban in Vermont, which would be an enormous step for us because we've got problems with air pollution from cars in Vermont.
Well, progress on batteries is happening very rapidly.
You can say that again.
And the prices of electric cars, therefore, are going to go down rapidly.
Yes, indeed.
And in a very short period of time, they're going to be at par with gasoline-powered cars. And people are just going to stop buying gasoline cars.
Why would you buy a gasoline-powered car if you've got the opportunity to go electric? And
only if it's cheaper.
Only if it's cheaper, and it will be cheaper. There's one other thing that people worry about, and that is range. But most people don't have to worry about range.
That's improving as we speak.
Absolutely, it is. It's constantly improving.
Well, we're making probably more progress with batteries in the last 10 years than we have since batteries were invented.
I think that's true. Yeah. I think you take the first, although I got to tell you, I keep coming back to that. Oh, it's called the Cambridge pile or the Cheltenham pile or something like that. It's a little teeny battery that has been powering a pendulum to keep going, ringing bells.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's been going for 140 years on one battery. We should do a special thing on just that one of these days to explain it to people. But that battery has been running that pendulum literally for 140 years or 160 years.
Have we talked about that on the show?
We've talked about it, but I don't think I ever have had a picture of it up or had an article about it. But
I'm aware of it, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Let's do that in the future sometime. Okay.
Let's move on for now.
We have a picture of a hydrogen delivery truck.
That's what it says.
How often have you seen a hydrogen delivery truck? Looks like a big milk truck, but it isn't.
Well, I don't think we've seen a hydrogen delivery truck in Vermont yet. I don't think there's
probably
any need for
not. And my bet is
it's probably a California thing.
Yeah, my bet is that thing has got an enormous amount of insulation in it and no cooling system. And the reason is because there's no way that truck could keep hydrogen cold enough to prevent it from boiling.
Yeah.
So the way they cool it is...
They just got to pressurize it.
They just have to allow it to boil, and that boiling keeps it cool. They could actually have it boil and use the hydrogen that comes off to power the truck.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. So this is from CNBC. What have you got for a title?
Amazon strikes green hydrogen deal with the fuel cell maker Plug Power.
Yeah, according to Amazon, Plug Power will supply 10,950 tons of green hydrogen per year for its transportation and building operations starting in 2025. Amazon expects Plug Power to provide enough green hydrogen to power 30,000 forklifts or 800 long-haul trucks.
It looks like they're keeping the diesels, but they're converting them to run on hydrogen.
Why not? You know?
Why not?
Why not? If you can do it, why not? Okay, do you have more on that?
Nope. Let's move on. Saturday, August 27th. Unless you got something to say.
I have one more thing about that, and that is I mentioned recently that tens of billions of dollars have been invested in hydrogen production plants without a market. And here is the market coming to meet it. And I've seen more of that coming in the last week or so. Okay, we're up, as you said,
it's not that this is unplanned, it's that they haven't told us about it.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. We have a picture of of a nuclear power plant. Don't think that's the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, but this is from The Guardian.
Well, it says it's a nuclear power plant, but it doesn't say which one it is.
Yeah.
So I will read the title. Russia blocks a UN nuclear treaty agreement over a clause on Zaporizhia.
Yeah. After 4 weeks of debate and negotiation among 151 countries, Russia blocked an agreement at the UN that aimed to bolster the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Moscow objected to a clause about control over the Zaporizhia power plant in Ukraine.
This is Putin trying to flex his muscles.
Putin doesn't know how to do anything but flex his muscles. The problem is he uses his muscles, but he doesn't use his mind. At least that's my opinion.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay, do you have more on that?
No, let's move on.
Let's do that. Okay, we have a picture here of a diving whale. I saw 3 whales once.
I've seen whales, but way from a distance.
Yeah, this is from BBC.
You can see them from the beach spouting out in the sea.
Oh, neat. I went out, I used to live in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and I had a visitor, and we went down to the dock and got on a whale watch boat, and we went out and they found 3 humpback whales, one of which was a baby.
So you saw the whales up close?
I saw the whales, up close, from 150 feet away, 200 feet away.
That's pretty close to a whale.
That's pretty close to a whale. And anyway, so what do you have for title?
Efforts to pass Global Ocean Protection Treaty fail. This is politics.
Yeah, this is revolting. A 5th effort to pass a global agreement to protect the world's oceans and marine life failed. Talks at the UN High Seas Treaty went for 2 weeks in New York City, but governments could not agree on the terms. International waters represent nearly 2/3 of the world's oceans, but only 1.2% of it is actually protected now.
They've got to pass that treaty.
This is something that is so important. And the idea that this would be the 5th effort and it, like the ones before it, has failed is really infuriating. So
somebody's playing games.
It's bad. This is not a good thing. Anyway.
Let's move along here. We got an interesting picture of a Tesla Model Y.
And for the life of me, I can't figure out what's going on behind that car.
I can't either. I didn't even try.
This is from Clean Technica.
Quarterly U.S. auto sales are down nearly 1 million, while Tesla sales are up 97% in 3 years.
And I got to tell you.
Somebody's trying to tell us something here.
I think so. U.S. auto sales continue to crash. In the second quarter of 2022, U.S. auto sales were down 20% compared to the second quarter of 2021, and they were down 22% compared to the second quarter of 2019. Tesla's sales in the second quarter of this year were up 30% higher than the second quarter of 2021, and as the title says, up 97% in the last 3 years. I'm going to put that car up so that people can see it again. And
well, Tesla, of course, makes nothing but electric cars. They don't make internal combustion.
Absolutely, and if Ford were making nothing but electric cars, or GM were making nothing but electric cars, my guess is they would probably have had an increase in sales too. Which means the United States economy, I believe, is already being held up by our connections with fossil fuels, and that's the economy being held up.
I think that's valid.
Yeah, okay, we're up to Sunday, August 28th.
All day.
All day. Have you got, let's see, let's put this up. We have a nice picture here of a German railroad. This is our second
That's what the picture says.
Second picture today of a German railroad. Let me put it up. There we go. And
there's a lot of railroads in Germany.
Oh, they're all over the place. This is from Clean Technica. I was, you know, it's been a long time since I went to Germany, and I was there in 1962, so it's been 60 years. But I was amazed. I went to Heidelberg, and in Heidelberg, you could take an electric tram out into the countryside, and you know the youth hostel was out there, so I stayed there a couple of days, and the youth hostel. I got up from the youth hostel early in the morning and went into Heidelberg. I wanted to go places and see things. And riding into town at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, I was sitting next to a man who really did want to speak in English just to keep his English going. And I saw a woman get on the tram with a box that looked like a small pizza box. And then at the next stop, these stops were only about 100, 200 yards apart. Another woman got on. And then at the next stop, another woman got on.
They're all carrying these little pizza boxes.
They're all carrying little pizza boxes. And I turned to the man sitting next to me and I said, what are they taking into town? And he said, those are farm wives taking their eggs to market.
Uh-huh.
So they have electric trolleys going out into the countryside, where farmers and people who live on the farms can bring their produce to town.
That's interesting.
And in the United States, what have we got? We have got vehicles that cost tons of money to keep going, which is an unfortunate thing as far as I'm concerned. I would definitely go with an increase in the number of electric vehicles we've got. Anyway, this article is from Clean Technica. And what are we
demand?
Yeah.
I was just about to read it. Demand for solar explodes everywhere in Europe, except the UK.
Yes. In April, Germany instituted new policies designed to accelerate the construction of wind and solar installations. Russia's invasion of Ukraine made the problem clear. It is in the national interest of all countries to use local renewable energy for their own security.
Say that sentence again. That's significant.
It is in the national interest of all countries to use local renewable energy for their own security. In the United States, we're using a lot of energy materials that are imported. And that includes, by the way, the fuel for our nuclear power plants. About half of our fuel is imported either from Russia, I shouldn't say about half, but a very large percentage of it, I'm not sure what the percentage is either from Russia or from Kazakhstan, which is sending it to us through
Kazakh who?
Kazakhstan. It's where the
Kazakhs. Kazakh who?
Kazakh who? Is that a noise that you make when your nose is plugged up? Okay.
Let's move along here. We got a picture of some figs.
We have a picture of some figs. Let me put that up. Let's see.
I think they're figs.
Those are figs. And, you know, I observed this and I thought, those figs are not growing like the figs that we have where I live. Our figs, if you look at if you look at that pair of figs and you can see the stem of one of them going up to the bottom of a leaf stem, you can see a little bud between the leaf stem and the stem of the tree, and that is where a fig would come from on our little tree. And I think the reason figs, if you don't prune them back a lot, produce 2 crops every year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And I think this is the spring crop, which we have never had because we always prune our figs back enough that they don't produce the spring crop.
So you're growing figs, huh?
I ate a fig this morning.
Oh, good for you.
It's probably the 5th one that I've eaten this year. And we also have other trees there, and I'll tell you about them in time. We have a lot.
We're talking about figs. Let's talk about another fruit.
Yeah, this is avocado.
Avocados and exotic plants grow in a hot UK summer.
This is from the BBC. This summer's record-breaking hot and dry weather has seen more exotic plants, including figs and avocados, growing in the UK, gardeners told BBC News. It's part of a trend of Mediterranean and subtropical plants thriving in recent years, while traditional British garden varieties are struggling. And I have another article that I think we're going to be talking about next week about vineyards opening up in Sweden, believe it or not.
Vineyards in Sweden?
Vineyards in Sweden, if you can imagine that. Now, I lived in 1962 in Devon, and the coast of Devon had palm trees, which were not native. I thought they were, but they were not native palm trees, but they were doing just fine there. They had been planted.
Well, there's palm trees growing naturally in Ireland.
Yeah. They
weren't planted there. They're natural. They're real.
I'm not surprised. The Isles of Scilly, which is off the British coast, they're British islands. They're off the coast of Cornwall. If you keep going west from the westernmost tip of Cornwall, you come close to them, and they are covered with palm trees. But they're not emperor palm trees like you'd find in Florida. These are stumpy little palm trees. They're about...
They are palm trees, but they're not what we're used to.
They're not what we're used to, that's right. The ones that I saw in Devon were like 8 feet tall, but they were very clearly palm trees. And they had thick trunks, that tapered quite a lot.
So they were there for a while.
They were there for a long time.
Well, we're seeing a hot and dry Europe while we're seeing floods in Pakistan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, anybody who thinks we're not having climate change is out of his mind. I was reading about somebody on Fox News who was saying, how could we be having climate change? We're setting records for cold weather. Well, there's a reply to that, which is every year
the difference between weather and climate.
Yeah, every year we set a lot of records. In a normal year, when I was a kid, we would have had an equal number of hot records and cold records. Now, the records for high temperatures are outrunning the records for low temperatures by about 10 to 1. That's alarming. If they want to say we should be seeing records we shouldn't be seeing records for low temperatures, that would happen a long time from now. But what we're seeing is alarming. So.
Well, let's move along here.
Let's do that.
We're coming back to home.
We got a
picture of a celebration in Burlington.
I bet that's the 4th of July. What do you think?
I was thinking the same thing. That's the 4th, yep.
This is from Clean Technica.
The top 10 cities for solar power per capita in the USA.
Yeah, which U.S. cities are leading in solar power adoption? Which are leading in solar power installed per capita on a per capita basis? We've got answers to both questions thanks to a report from Environment America. Many of these cities are in the Southwest, but one on a per capita basis is Burlington, Vermont. That is in the top 10.
Well, Honolulu is number 1.
Yeah,
Burlington is number 7.
Yeah. Honolulu being number 1 shouldn't be a surprise because the energy there is so expensive that they've got profoundly good reasons to switch to solar power.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you have more on this?
No, I don't think so. I just got Honolulu's #1 and Burlington's #7 of the top 10.
Okay, we're up to Monday, August 29th, and we have an article from Oil Price.
And we got a picture of some wind turbines. Is that what they are?
That's what they are. They look like wind turbines.
Will Biden's big clean energy bet help the U.S. catch China?
This is so sad. The U.S. seems well on its way to green energy. President Joe Biden recently signed the biggest clean energy investment in U.S. history into law. The package.
Say that again, because that's significant.
Yeah. He signed the biggest clean energy investment in U.S. history into law. The package includes $370 billion in subsidies for renewable energy, EVs, and so forth. Nevertheless, compared to China, U.S. efforts look modest. And
they look almost puny.
They look puny. I am going to write an article, I believe, called the $1 trillion gift the United States gave China. Because in the last 6 years, the United States has allowed China to take the lead in practically everything that has anything to do with clean energy. And they are selling that stuff all over the world in huge markets. Electric buses, we're talking about $100 billion a year. The Chinese
cars.
The Chinese have got 95% plus of the electric bus market, and we have barely started. And that is, in my opinion, the fault of people we have elected to office in Washington, D.C., who are supposed to be interested in our working in our interest. But are they?
I think they look first toward the people who make contributions to them.
I think that's absolutely true. It's very sad. But the people who are making contributions to them are going to find themselves out of work because, well, Donald Trump said Trump digs coal. And in the 4 years that he was president of the United States, a third of the U.S. coal miners lost their jobs. Unfortunately. Fortunately, there are lots of jobs available in clean technology. So should we go on?
Can't dance.
Okay, we have pictures of olive trees. And guess what?
From the BBC?
This is from the BBC. Those are Spanish olive trees. Our olive trees here in Brattleboro are bearing olives.
Is that so?
It is so.
You mean in your yard?
That's
your
right.
Personal olive trees?
That's right. Well, they're my landlady's olives. But,
no, it's okay. It's close enough.
Last year they had olives, but the olives were all stolen.
No kidding.
Yeah, by squirrels.
Wow.
By squirrels.
Squirrels! They were squirreled away.
That's right. Oh, well. So this is from the BBC, and you have a title. What do you got?
Spain's olive oil producers devastated by the worst ever drought.
And by the way, this picture that you see is not from this year. It's from an earlier year. The fertile plains full of olive trees that stretch across southern Spain have made the country the world's biggest producer of olive oil, accounting for about half of the global supply. This year's yield is down by about a third already, and there is still no sign of rain.
Well, as I said earlier up, all of Europe is hot and dry.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My bet is they're going to be growing olives in Cornwall. Maybe they're going to be growing them in Ireland.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Ireland's a lot warmer than people think.
I know. And Devon is a lot warmer than people think.
Yeah.
I had an English girlfriend, and she told me that when the temperature in where she lived, which was near Croydon, which is just south of London, she said if the temperature goes above 80, everybody goes on strike And I got news for you. If that happened today, everybody would be on strike all summer.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a picture of a bus. Should I put that?
Looks like a bus to me.
Okay, there it is. I'm going to put it up where everybody can
It's not just a bus. It's a Proterra bus,
It's a Proterra
which means it's
bus.
electric.
That's right. So we have this from Clean Technica, and you have a title.
Vehicle to grid trials taking place in Massachusetts and New York.
I've heard of those places. Are they
Yeah.
near here? Okay, electric school buses are ideal candidates for use in V2G, which means vehicle to grid, applications. They sit idle during the day when schools are in session, which allows them to soak up lots of excess electricity generated midday when the output of solar power plants is highest. And you know, it's interesting because in the old days meaning 2 years ago, the highest demand was in about midday, and that's changing because the highest output of the solar panels is midday now. So we've got a different shape to the amount of electricity coming on an hourly basis if you do a graph of it. And,
Well, this application is a natural.
oh yeah,
I mean, school buses are parked all day.
yeah.
And what can they do? They can soak up energy.
And on top of everything else, they don't need big batteries because they don't have a lot of range.
They don't need a lot of range.
Exactly. They don't need a lot of big batteries.
Fossil fuel-powered buses provide no value when idle.
Yes, that's
Electric
right.
buses can be used effectively as mobile batteries
Yeah, which can
when they're not transporting students.
yeah, they can support the grid. If the grid demand goes
Bingo.
up, they can give electricity to the grid. If the
I
grid
think the article says exactly
yeah,
that.
and if the grid has too much electricity, they can soak that up. This is a big win. We've got lots of school buses in this country. I mean, lots of school buses.
Well, this is a natural application, really.
Absolutely.
If there was anything that was tailor-made for electric, it's
Yep.
school buses.
Okay, we're up to Tuesday, August 30th,
All day.
all day, and we
You know, I
have
got a funny-looking thing there.
we have a funny-looking thing, and you know, I don't usually take this kind of thing very seriously because these generators don't generate huge amounts of electricity. But in this case, there's a datum that they provided that is astonishing. So this is from Clean Technica. What have you got for
But you can see in that picture there
Yeah,
that thing is moving with the waves.
yeah,
Not necessarily with the current, but with the waves.
that's right. That is correct.
And what do I have to have for a title?
Yeah.
Well, I have it right here.
Well, good.
Swell, which is what this thing is called.
Yes.
A Sea Wave Energy Limited, Swell.
Yes.
It's a company, and they promise cleaner, cheaper energy ever.
Yep.
And it looks like they're achieving that.
Yeah.
You should read the article. Well, you're going to tell us, but
Yeah.
wow.
Sea Wave Energy Limited spent the better part of the last decade developing a floating wave riding generator that the company claims will produce a whole lot of tidal energy. And you know, I think they're wrong about this. It isn't tidal
It's not
energy.
tidal energy,
It
it's
is
wave
energy.
energy.
For
Tidal energy is different. It's
Right.
just when
not a
the whole thing goes up and down.
Right, for not a whole lot of money. Now, this is the thing. They claim the electricity will have a levelized cost of energy of 1 cent per kilowatt hour. That's what
Well,
I'm
let's
paying.
put that into perspective. As of August 1st of this year, Vermont's average retail electric rate is 19.53 cents
Yeah,
per kilowatt hour.
yeah,
Almost 20 times what they're making in
yeah.
electricity.
And if they could supply that electricity to Vermont, and of course they're a little bit removed from Vermont because I don't think you could do this at that price on Lake Champlain. But if they could do that, yeah, if they could do that and you know sign an agreement with Vermont, it would cut our electricity bill greatly.
Well, the article is a little bit confusing because they talk about tidal energy, and wave energy is different from
It's
tidal
not
energy.
the same. You're right, Tom. It's not the same. So
So let's move along here.
Okay, our next
Got
item.
a picture of some dandelions.
You know, I don't think those are dandelions. They look like the seed. The dandelion head's gone to seed, but I think those are flowers that happen to be facing the photographer.
That's possible.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I'll put them up for people to see. Okay, and this is a picture of. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. People can see what it is. It's impossible for me. CNN produced the...
It's a town in eastern Greenland with an unpronounceable name.
Yeah, which used to have a name that was in Norwegian or Icelandic or something. Okay, what do you got for a title?
Greenland ice losses set to raise global sea levels by nearly a foot.
Yeah.
New research shows.
Widespread ice losses from Greenland have locked in nearly a foot of global sea ice rise that's to come in the near future. A new research suggests there is no way to stop it. Even if the world stopped...
No way to stop it.
Right.
Wow.
Even if the world stopped releasing planet heating emissions today.
Well, water or ice that melts while it's floating does not contribute to sea level rise.
Yeah.
But water on land or ice on land that melts does.
Yep.
And in this particular case, they're talking about Greenland, and Greenland's got a lot of surface area, and a lot of that ice is melting, and it is raising sea levels.
Yes, it is indeed.
So they're raising sea levels around the world, really.
Worldwide, yes. Although, as this happens, Greenland, which has been pushed down by the weight of the ice, is rising. So the
you never think about things like that, but that's true.
The houses that you see here are going to be a little bit farther from the water because of that rise, and you know they're going to have problems with boats that are a little bit farther out than they would like them to be, and so forth. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got to move on. We got a picture of some PVs over a canal.
Yes, and this is from Clean Technica.
California plans to add solar panels over irrigation canals.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the biggest problems with solar panels is they take up a lot of real estate.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting...
If the real estate's being used for something else...
Right. California...
Bingo. And in this particular case, there's a secondary benefit in that they cut down the evaporation.
Yep. Let me read the synopsis, Tom. California has 4,000 miles of irrigation canals that distribute water to the state's farmers. If all of them were covered with solar panels, they would produce 13 gigawatts of renewable energy. What's a gigawatt, Tom?
Water gigawatts? They're bigawatts.
Yeah. The Turlock Water and Power is planning to start Project Nexus, a pilot program putting PVs over the canals.
Well, it looks like a win-win situation. They're generating electricity and they're saving water. This is a winner.
Yeah, this is, and when you, this is 50, they could get 50% of the electricity they currently need from those solar panels. 50%. And on top of everything else, they would be reducing evaporation on the canals, which means they'd have more water to deliver to the farms.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the project avoids siting solar systems on farmland and can reduce aquatic weed and algae growth, saving on maintenance costs.
Yeah.
So this is a win-win.
I think you're missing a win or two there. It might be a win-win-win or a win-win-win-win. Okay, should we go on? Our next item.
Well, rapidly approaching us is Wednesday, August 31st.
Well, let's just make it here, okay? There we go. We have a picture of a Maine forest.
That's what it tells us.
And an item from WBUR.
Which is in Burlington.
Yeah. What do you got for a title?
Maine's High Court rules that voter referendum blocking power corridor was likely unconstitutional.
Maine's highest court has struck a blow against a campaign to prevent Central Maine Power from building a high-voltage transmission line in western Maine, where nobody lives. I shouldn't say that, where very few people live. Ruling that a November 2021 referendum was likely unconstitutional. Now, they're just saying that it's likely unconstitutional.
That's an interesting
Position?
set of conditions, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have for out of your notes on that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Well,
I don't have any notes on that.
oh, okay. The thing that I looked at, because I looked at this article to say likely unconstitutional. What do they mean that it's likely unconstitutional? They're supposed to be the people who figure that out. Well, the thing is,
Good point.
huh?
Good point.
This referendum was passed after the Central Maine Power had spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this power line, which had already received state approval. And so what the court is saying is that the lower courts that decided against the power line had not taken...
There was a campaign against it.
Right. They had not taken into account that this money had already been spent and that the company was operating in good faith, or very likely operating in good faith, on the basis of their investments. So
what they're saying is, why worry about this? It's already happened.
It's not already happened. The problem is it was already underway, and so they stopped something that was already happening. And so they're saying you can't give a person permits to do something, and then after he's spent several $100 million getting it going, say, oh, we've decided that you can't do that. So the question was, Central Maine Power, those people knew that there was a campaign out there to stop them. So were they investing that money in bad faith? That's the question. And so that has to go back to the lower courts for a decision. And this is going to just take some time to work out. And my bet is the lower courts are going to say, no, they were operating in good faith. They did not put hundreds of millions of dollars into a hole knowing that it was going to get buried there.
Well, an interesting sideline here is the nature of the grid is changing anyhow.
Yes.
You know, large generating stations remotely located are a thing of the past. We're going to have a grid with renewable power generated throughout it.
Yes, I think things are, as you said, things are changing. Do you have more on that?
No, I don't. Let's move along.
Okay, I'm going to...
Got a picture of
a tugboat.
Auckland again.
What?
We're back to Auckland.
Auckland, yes, we are. I had forgotten that Auckland comes up twice. All right, this is from Clean Technica. What have you got?
Auckland welcomes Sparky, the world's first full-size electric tugboat.
Now, I think we've had electric tugboats before, but they were kind of like mini tugboats. This one is a full-size.
This is a real life electric tugboat.
That's right. The world's first full-size electric tug is now in service in Auckland, New Zealand. It is called Sparky, which was the first choice in an online naming contest. I hate that name. But, you know, people like it.
Sparky sounds like a dog to me. It's like a fire dog.
That's right. Dalmatian. Yep. And I think I would have loved the name if I were a kid, but Sparky just sounds too lighthearted for me as an adult who likes eating green olives. Sparky can perform up to 4 shipping moves on a single charge of the batteries and can be recharged in about 2 hours.
Well, shipping moves is what a tugboat does.
Yeah. So that means that it can tug or push or whatever it's going to do with 4 ships, and then goes in for a charge, and all the guys on it go out and have pizza, and then they go back to work.
Bingo.
But I don't know how long a shipping move takes, and my guess is it could take quite a while.
Well, yeah. I think it can. If you've ever seen New York Harbor.
Well, you've been in the Navy, Tom.
Yeah.
And you must have been in a position where you were on ships that were being pushed or pulled by tugboats.
Not on any of the ships I was on.
Ah, okay. All right. These things, this boat, let me put it back up. This boat, which is I think it's called a tugboat. It might actually qualify as a ship. I don't know. It's fairly big. You can see the people up at the bow waving.
I was just going to say there's people waving at us.
Yeah. This boat is has a propeller that is 3 meters, which means it's 10 feet.
10 feet.
So the propeller of this boat is 10 feet across. This is not small. You know.
No, I guess not.
No.
You wouldn't get that impression from the picture, but it's...
No, well, you know, it's a tugboat, and tugboats have huge propellers. Yeah. I think I read that the draft of this thing is 17 feet. And a lot of that is because the propeller has to be mounted very low so that you get a very efficient use of it.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, our next item is our last, and it comes from Clean Technica. Let me put this picture up.
There's a picture of a railroad.
Yeah, Deutsche Bahn, which means German railroad. And this is from Clean Technica. And what do you have for a title?
This is interesting.
Yes,
a monthly
it is.
rail pass in Germany cuts carbon emissions by 1.8 million tons. That's significant.
1.8 million tons. On June 1st, Germany started a program allowing people 1 month of unlimited travel on trams, buses, and regional train networks. So you're not going to go from the south of Germany all the way to the north.
No, but they've got a lot of small local
They've got
railroads.
so many local railroads. It's crazy. And
it's sort of around Boston.
Yeah. The price of this ticket is €9, which is almost
about $10.
Yeah, it's pretty close to $9 right now. And an analysis shows that reduction in trips by automobile that resulted in 1.8 million fewer tons of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere. Now,
that's interesting.
They were doing this.
We got people that are using trains to commute instead of driving.
Exactly. And, it galls me when I think of that trolley in Heidelberg, and here we are in Brattleboro, Vermont, and there are tracks that go from Brattleboro to Boston. But try to ride a train to Boston and see what happens.
Well, you could do that.
There's no train to Boston from Brattleboro.
No, not directly from Brattleboro. It takes you down to Greenfield.
You'd have to take it to Greenfield and then get off and get another train. And those trains operate on entirely different schedules. So it could take you 3 hours.
You might sit there at a station for a couple of hours.
Yeah, exactly. And, I'll tell you what this reminds me of. When I was, I'm going to say 4 years old, so we're going back to 1950. I remember that my mother and I went from Denver, which is where we were living at the time, to Atchison, Kansas, which is where her father lived, which is at the other end, the eastern end of Kansas. Now, you'd think that a train would go from Denver to Atchison. I mean, after all, Atchison was the terminus of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, but it was also the terminus of other railroads. There used to be an Atchison and Nebraska Railroad, for example. But the thing is, the train that we took actually went from Denver to Atchison, but it started its trip by going to Cheyenne. So going from Kansas to Colorado to Kansas, we had to start by going to Wyoming.
That doesn't seem to make sense.
Well, it doesn't, except that the history of the Union Pacific Railroad is it went from Council Bluffs, Iowa to Sacramento, and it went via Cheyenne. And Cheyenne, when it went through, was a whole lot bigger city than Denver. But the people in Denver wanted to be on a rail line, so they built at their own expense a railroad from Denver to Cheyenne. So this thing that we were on had been put in place, I think, during the 1870s. And then, of course, other routes went after that. But we could have gone from Denver straight east and gone to, I don't know, Topeka, Wichita. It wasn't Kansas City, but it would have been a city, big city in Kansas. And then from there to Atchison, but it would have involved changing trains. And that would have taken a lot of time. So we didn't. We just got on a train and rode it from Denver to Atchison, and it went through Cheyenne.
Bingo.
Yeah, there you go. And here, you know, we have these trains all over Germany, and they're very effective in cutting down carbon emissions for transportation. And we could take a train from Brattleboro to Boston. We could take a train from Brattleboro to Boston if only a train ran from Brattleboro to Boston on the tracks that are already there,
yeah,
which are in use.
Trains do run there on those tracks, but they're freight trains.
Yeah, and you know, if you could get to, I don't know, not Irving. I forget the town that's in Massachusetts that's farther east. But if you could get to the city that's out by Air and wherever that is, you would be, you know, you'd be able to make it the rest of the way. But no, you can't do it. You have to go to Greenfield and then take a train from there, or, and this might actually be faster, go to Springfield, Massachusetts, and take a train from there. And it's like, our rail system in the United States for my entire life has been in decline.
Well, that's deliberate.
Yeah, it's absolutely deliberate. It's deliberate because the big companies want people to spend money on cars. And they'd rather have them spend money on cars than on trains. But the result of that is that, and this goes back to the 1950s, and they didn't disguise this. They told everybody our economy is going to be much faster if we just have everybody have his own car. You know, it's like the promise of the politician. A chicken in every garage and a bean in every pot, or whatever it was that they said.
Well, the idea of having your own car and being self-sufficient is very attractive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's attractive. But, you know, it means that the trains are shut down. And there were a lot more trains.
It's interesting because the tracks are there.
The tracks, well, in some cases,
the tracks are still there.
There used to be tracks that ran from Greenfield to Keene, and they're not there anymore. They were taken up. But the tracks, and the other tracks have been taken up.
No, there used to be a track that ran up along the West River.
That's
ran
right.
to Jamaica.
Yes, and all of that stuff is gone, but there is a lot of stuff that's there. And it's, as you said, the tracks run from Brattleboro to Boston. It's just that you can't get there from here.
You can't get there from here.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're going to wish everybody a consummately delightful week. And Tom and I are both waving goodbye. I'm waving goodbye extra hard so that people can see it, but Tom is waving goodbye as he sits at home.
I have waved.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Absolutely.
Did I get it right that time?
Yeah, you get good.